They brought a human cub to the observation deck. Now the entire Predator brood rests beside her, the galactic freighter. Astral Mercy hummed through the void between star systems. Its cargo holds filled with specimens destined for the Interstellar Biological Research Consortium. Among the crates of mineral samples and exotic flora sat something unprecedented. A human child. Voren, the ship's xenobiologist and a member of the insectoid Thrank species, had objected strenuously when the human cub was brought aboard. Humans were classified as apex predators, deathworlders from a planet so hostile that its dominant species had evolved with forward-facing eyes, persistence-hunting capabilities, and a disturbing tendency toward pack bonding with virtually anything. She is 3 of their solar cycles old, Captain Zexthar had explained. Orphaned during the mining colony collapse on Kepler 442b. We're transporting her to the human embassy station. The child's name was Lyra. She possessed the typical features of human young: disproportionately large cranium, underdeveloped motor control, and those unsettlingly forward-facing eyes. When Voren first approached her containment cell, she had stared at him with an intensity that made his exoskeleton itch. But then she had smiled. The problems began on the 3rd day. The Astral Mercy carried more than botanical samples. In the lower cargo bay, secured behind triple-reinforced containment fields, were 6 juvenile Kreshtar, predators from the death world of Kresh Prime. Each one stood nearly 2 meters tall, with obsidian scales, retractable claws that could shear through hull plating, and a pack intelligence that made them formidable even to armed security teams. They were being transported to a xenozoological preserve, and they were becoming increasingly agitated. The Kreshtar are exhibiting distress behaviors, Voren reported to the captain, pacing, vocalizing, attempting to breach containment. Captain Zexthar's eye stalks drooped. Sedation could damage their neural development. These specimens are worth more than this entire vessel. Find another solution. The answer came from an unexpected source. Lyra had escaped her quarters. Voren discovered her absence during his routine evening check. He found her in the observation bay adjacent to the Kreshtar containment area. The child had somehow bypassed 2 security locks and squeezed through a maintenance conduit. She sat cross-legged on the deck plating, her small hands pressed against the transparent aluminum barrier that separated her from the Kreshtar enclosure. On the other side of that barrier, all 6 predators sat in a semicircle, completely still. Voren's translator picked up the soft sounds Lyra was making, not words exactly, but melodic vocalizations. She was humming, a vibration pattern that seemed to resonate through the deck plating itself. The Kreshtar, creatures that had been thrashing and snarling mere hours before, were utterly transfixed. Fascinating, Voren whispered. One of the Kreshtar, the pack leader, moved closer to the barrier, its massive head tilted, studying Lyra with intelligence that burned in its multifaceted eyes. The creature released a low, rumbling vocalization, not a threat display, but something closer to a query. Lyra responded immediately, her small voice mimicking the tone and rhythm of the Kreshtar's call. It wasn't perfect, but the intent was clear. Communication, connection. The pack leader's tail, which had been lashing violently for days, slowly lowered into a relaxed position. Voren should have removed Lyra immediately. Protocol demanded it, but the xenobiologist in him couldn't look away. This was pack-bonding behavior, the same instinct that allowed humans to domesticate creatures on their deadly homeworld. The same evolutionary quirk that made them see family in anything. Over the next hour, Voren watched as Lyra somehow negotiated a social contract with 6 of the galaxy's most dangerous predators. She would make sounds and they would respond. She would press her hand against the barrier, and they would touch their snouts to the same spot. When she yawned, the entire pack settled down onto the deck. "Report?" Captain Zexthar's voice crackled through Voren's comm unit. "Have you located the human cub?" "Yes, Captain. She's in the observation bay with the Kreshtar." "Explain." "The Kreshtar have ceased all aggressive behaviors. The child appears to have established pack rapport." By the time Captain Zexthar arrived, Lyra had curled up on the deck, using her small jacket as a pillow. On the other side of the barrier, all 6 Kreshtar had arranged themselves in a protective circle, their bodies oriented toward the child. They were sleeping. "This is impossible," the captain breathed. By all conventional xenobiological models, yes. Vorin agreed. But humans evolved on a world where forming bonds with predators offered survival advantages. Lyra is instinctively applying these same social strategies to the Kreshtar, and they're accepting it. More than accepting. They're reciprocating. Look at their positioning, that's protective formation. They've adopted her into their pack structure. Captain Zexthar made a decision that would later be debated across the galaxy. Lower the secondary barrier. Maintain the primary containment field, but allow environmental sharing. The secondary barrier lowered with a pneumatic hiss. The scent molecules could now pass between the two areas. The largest Kreshtar raised its head, nostrils flaring as it processed Lyra's biochemical signature. Then deliberately it released a low rumbling purr, a sound Vorin had never heard from the species before. Lyra stirred, opened her eyes and smiled. For the remaining 6 days of the journey, an unprecedented routine developed. Lyra would spend her waking hours in the observation bay, and the Kreshtar would remain calm and engaged. She would eat her meals there and they would eat theirs. She would sleep and they would maintain their protective vigil. Vorin documented everything, knowing this data would revolutionize interspecies behavioral psychology. On the final day, as they approached the station, Vorin had to separate Lyra from the Kreshtar. The human embassy representatives were waiting. Lyra cried, high-pitched vocalizations of distress. And in the cargo bay, all 6 Kreshtar howled in response. They're bonded, Captain Zexthar observed. Truly bonded. Vorin made a decision that would alter his career forever. Captain, request permission to speak with the human representatives. I have a proposal. 3 months later, the Interstellar Biological Research Consortium approved an unprecedented experimental protocol. Lyra would be raised at the Xenozoological Preserve alongside the Kreshtar brood, under Vorin's supervision. Vorin watched as 4-year-old Lyra ran through the preserve's meadow, 6 towering Kreshtar bounding alongside her, their obsidian scales gleaming in artificial sunlight. Where other species saw apex predators, humans saw family. The entire Kreshtar brood rested beside her that evening, just as they had on the observation deck. And Lyra, small and impossibly fragile, slept peacefully in the center of their protective circle, proving once again that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their capacity for violence. It was their inexhaustible capacity for love.